It's not one.
What is biromantic? Do you know what that means? Have you ever even heard the word? Well, I had never heard the word until I read a short story that won our monthly contest by Renata Leo. She's an amazing writer. She has some powerful perspectives, and you are about to learn some new things in a provocative way that are going to really make you think and possibly change your life. Welcome to Writer Talks. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and here at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing, we interview the winners of our monthly short story contest who get published in our international anthologies of writers from around the world. And so I want you to meet Renata Leo, coming to us live from New Jersey. Welcome, Renata.
Hey Elizabeth, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this. I said right before we started, the shoulder dancing is like already breaking out. It's going to be a fun time.
Yes, I love your energy. So your winning short story is called "Was I Really the Last to Know That I'm Bisexual?" So that's really a provocative topic. I read it. I loved it. It won the month. And I learned because you taught me some vocabulary and some perspectives that I'd not been familiar with yet, such as the word biromantic. So can you talk about that word, please? What does it
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. So actually one of the things about being bisexual that I think was so strange, that my friends thought that I should know already, was that I had actually gone on a few dates and been with a woman before. And she and I didn't really click. So when I kind of told her that, like, hey, I don't necessarily want to pursue this relationship, we didn't click. She said, well, I didn't necessarily feel like a romantic spark with you either, but that's because I'm not biromantic. And I was like, biromantic? And then, as soon as, like you said, you hear that new word and you start to ponder and you bring it in and you start to think about it and settle in your heart. And I was like, oh, that must be what I am. I'm biromantic because what I have is these romantic feelings, but no sexual feelings. So maybe that's what I am. So then I started seeking out relationships with actually asexual women, and nothing came to fruition until after I was monogamously engaged, which I know we'll get to. I'm not trying to jump the gun. But yeah, it was something that I identified with for a while before I knew, before I really stepped into my sexuality.
So your story very clearly defines it. And at first I'm reading because they're usually fiction stories, but this was a true story.
Mhm.
Please go to twosisterswriting.com, winning stories, and read her awesome story. It's phenomenal. So you talk about your own personal journey, which included polyamory. And you also talk about the term asexual, like you just
Mhm.
said. So can you, for those who are not familiar, what does asexual mean?
So ace, I don't identify as ace. So like, I definitely don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but I have friends who identify that way. And so for them, for different reasons, they just don't really experience sexual desire. It's just not something that really interests them. I know some asexual people are happy to perform sexual acts with their partner if that's what they really want. It's kind of a just a piece of their relationship that they discuss, and it's just part of the agreement.
Uh-huh.
But asexual typically means no sexual desire to do sexual acts. Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So biromantic means you're attracted, you have romantic feelings, but there's no physical sort of consummation of the attraction.
right,
Okay,
right. And
interesting.
yeah, so the way I described it, back when that's how I identified, the way I described it was a schoolyard crush, right? Like I had
Oh,
crushes, when I was young, I would crush on mostly men as a young person. But I mean, there was nothing sexual because I was young, it didn't
uh-huh.
dawn on me that there was something sexual about it. So for me, my feelings for women were almost like that, where I would have those little schoolyard, like butterfly feelings and like jealousy. The jealousy was crazy with, with some of those women, but there was no like sexual feelings that I had.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
So today is National Coming Out Day.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that you were bisexual?
So I always like to preface this by saying that Demi Lovato made me realize it, because which I think kind of speaks for itself. But it was one of those chance happenings, and I am like such a strong believer in like the universe putting certain things in our path, and just those once in a lifetime experiences that are not a coincidence, right? Like this couldn't be coincidental. New Year's Eve, I was really, really stuck in my head. This was New Year's Eve 2018. and I was having a really crappy night, and something accidentally got spilt on my sweater. And so I went to wash it off in the bathroom, and I just sparked up a conversation with a really, really kind queer woman in the bathroom. And we vibed. Like there was no, I wasn't necessarily crushing or anything, but she brought me out of like the depressive state that I was in. And for me, that just meant so much. So, I said thank you to her. I was like, wow, this was really great just chatting with you, and it helped me so much. And she saw my haircut, actually, my undercut, and she called it the calling card for the queer. And like I kind of like took that in, and I messaged one of my best friends who really introduced me to a lot of the stuff. And she said, and I said queer, like that's how I identify, like not quite straight, right? Like not straight, but not, I don't feel like I have a perfect label. And she was like, yeah, queer makes sense. Like you definitely deviate from, heterosexuality. And so I took that on, and I was like, okay, this is part of my identity. This feels right. And then I heard a Demi Lovato song on the way to work in the next week, and my brain went, Demi Lovato is my celebrity crush, and my brain went, all right, that's what that means. Got it.
So I love it. That is a sign. So Renata, can you talk, for those who aren't familiar with Demi Lovato, can you just real quickly summarize that story?
So Demi Lovato is a very, very attractive non-binary artist. They were on Disney when they were younger, but now they just do these really, really, they have like this very powerful voice. And like sometimes when I imagine becoming a singer that I will never do, I imagine singing with Demi Lovato on stage, because their voice is so powerful. And the one song, Nightingale, look it up. It is a song that I cry every time I hear it, because it is just so powerful. But with that power also comes a lot of sexiness. If you watch their videos, there's a lot of sexiness there.
Cool. So Nightingale, excellent.
Yes.
So that was sort of the impetus, that experience and that phase. And then how did that evolve?
So when it comes to evolution, I almost want to say that there was almost a stopping point, because I was monogamously engaged at that point. So, I did speak with my fiance, because it was a part of me that I now know about, and that was really exciting. So I did speak with him about it, and I think he was not, my fiance is a very, very open man. Like it would not have been like, oh, she's bisexual, that's gross, but it was like, oh no, like, does this, she's clearly very excited about this new piece of herself. Does that mean something different for us? And I was like, it doesn't. I just want you to know. I just want you to hear me out and understand. And now he's kind of accepted it. But at first he was definitely concerned. But as far as evolution goes, that was kind of it.
That's very cool. So now you're engaged in a
Yes.
monogamous relationship, despite your past of being polyamorous. Okay. All right. How does that work? Like you just decide, well, I'm just going to stay in one lane now.
So my fiance was only polyamorous for a very short amount of time, and he really was not a fan. He really liked monogamy. I have never been monogamous before in my life. I did not start dating until my 20s. And in all honesty, well, some of the reason I wasn't dating was because of lack of other humans that were interested in being coupled with me. But the other thing was, I didn't love the idea of, cutting myself off to other experiences. That felt weird to me. So when my one friend in college introduced me to polyamory, my immediate instinct was like, wow, that's a lot of work. But then I kind of realized that fit with me. So I started dating that way. I didn't even do monogamy at all. And then when my fiance and I started dating, we were hanging out every single day. And I don't think either of us wanted to cut that back. So we didn't want to take on more partners and then, have them feel like they weren't being taken care of. Polysaturated is a term in the poly community, which means you've hit your limit. You are polysaturated when you have the amount of partners that you are comfortable with, and you will not, if you took on more, you would neglect those relationships. So we were polysaturated at a point of one, essentially.
Oh, that's powerful. Okay,
Yeah.
so for those who are not really that familiar with what is polyamory or how it operates, how do you do it? What is it?
So it's kind of different for everybody. There are plenty of terms. There are plenty of different ways to do it. For me, It was mostly just being open to having multiple relationships. I am a deep relationship person. I always have been. A lot of my friends probably heard about my mental illnesses like within 5 minutes of meeting me, and then we were friends for forever. Like, that's just how I am. I don't do short little things. I don't do anything halfway. I need to go all in with a lot of things. And as someone who is multi-passionate, someone who does like a lot of variety, it was just being able to have a bunch of different relationships, but they were all really, really deep and really strong. And it was great. And actually,
Wow.
my ex is my blog editor and my book editor now. He and I are still best friends. We talk on the phone every day.
Wow, this is so powerful. I
Yeah.
love how your generation, you're 28 years old. I
Mhm.
love how your generation is so free and you're so free to define yourself and live as that, no matter what anybody else says. What does that feel like? And how can other people do it, especially older people who feel really constrained by all the rules?
It is so challenging. I think one of the biggest things for me that helped me kind of really step into my own and know what that meant. I feel like I always acted as this is who I am, but when I was, in high school and early college, I think it was more of a defiance than anything like I'm who I am, you can't change me. And then it got to the point where I started learning about myself, and then it's like, oh, I'm learning these things about myself and they're part of me and I love that. Instead of this like anger, it was more like I want to share, who I am with other people. And I think a lot of that came from just doing therapy for several years and becoming very self-aware, because now it probably does. I mean, overall I am pretty happy with who I am, and I'm sure it projects that way to a lot of people, but I think it's self-awareness because and I'm a thinker at heart. I'm not really a feeler. So when I say things, I don't say them emotionally. I usually say them from a point of fact. When I talk about depression, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I'm just telling you I'm depressed. Like it's not, there's no emotion attached to me. It's just a fact. I'm depressed. It is what it is.
Wow,
Yeah.
fascinating. So, speaking of emotions, how do you finesse jealousy in a polyamorous lifestyle, or is it not an issue for you?
And so this is another one that there are a lot of different things and a lot of different, like some people will literally be like, oh, why would I feel jealous? Like, I don't feel jealous when my friends hang out. And so I'm on the opposite of that. I do feel jealous when my friends hang out, and I feel jealous about a lot of stuff. So part of me was like, if I'm going to be jealous anyway, I might as well date a bunch of people because I'm going to be jealous no matter what. Actually, I find this very interesting, and I have another piece published on another site about this one where um, I actually handled jealousy way better as a polyamorous person and felt way less jealousy than as a monogamous person. Um, yeah.
Wow. Why?
So I think there are a few reasons. And one of them is, while the poly community is great, there are some jerks in it, like anything else. And I definitely think that they look down on like monogamous jealousy, and like it's just like it's so crippling, like you get all caught up in it. But I also think that monogamous jealousy is very, very condoned in our culture, and you don't notice it, not necessarily unless you've been on both sides, maybe. But for me, I remember when I would be on the outside of a monogamous relationship or even a polyamorous relationship, and something would happen. Whereas my monogamous friends would be like, oh, why aren't you upset about this? Why don't you feel some kind of way? And I'm like, oh, why would I feel some kind of way? It doesn't make sense. And now I'm in a monogamous relationship and I'm like, oh, I should feel some kind of way about this. So I feel some kind of way about this. I know that was super vague. But I have a concrete example. This past Valentine's Day, I saw all these things on Facebook, and I was like, well, why didn't I get these flowers? Why didn't I do this? And I would have never thought that before, ever. And now it's like, even though I didn't want those things, they were not things I wanted, but my brain was like, you need to be upset about this. And it's been very strange for me. Whereas jealousy was something I could really process easily before, because I could look at my support system, my poly support system, and be like, this doesn't make sense, right? Can I talk through this with someone? Where as a monogamous person now, it's condoned. Like I'll be like, oh, this is upsetting me, and like I'll just see more and more things in media and on social media where people are just like, no, this should be upsetting. Where even if it's nothing, like things I didn't even want for Valentine's Day.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. So this show is Writer Talks, and we're here to talk about writing. So obviously, this lifestyle, this experience inspires your writing. That's why you were winning short story. Well, it's a true story, for our contest on our website and in our anthology. So can you talk about how your perspective inspires your writing? And do you see yourself as a teacher to lead others on a path of self-discovery?
So I am working on a book right now that's sort of about, I would say sort of about self-discovery. I when typing the genre, when preparing the email for my beta readers, I said genre is self-help / millennial disaster, because
Oh, wow.
it's essentially like showing up as yourself. And someone did recently very kindly, not rudely, ask me, well, what makes you an expert on whatever you're writing a book on? And I'm like, well, first of all, I honestly feel like I'm a decent writer. But I feel like my self-awareness has helped a lot. And I feel like honestly, everyone has something to share. And I mean, for my fiance, it's woodworking. You know what I mean? That's where his heart comes through. That's where his passion comes through. And that's where he can share his own story. For me, it's, I've always wanted to help people. And if my writing is a way to do it, and I write a lot of like personal development stuff, then I really hope that it resonates with someone. I hope people with depression look at my writing and go, oh, I'm so glad that someone else feels that way. I don't feel so alone. So
Beautiful,
yeah, in a
beautiful.
way, I guess teacher sort of, but more or less, I honestly just want to I almost want to say word vomit, right? I almost just want to pour all my thoughts and feelings onto paper
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
hope that someone feels less alone. That's what I really want.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. So your book, how much have you completed and what's your process?
So it is my my ex has now edited it. It's out to my beta readers. So now I have to sit back and do nothing while people criticize my book, and it is very heart-wrenching. But it is a lot of, I have a blog that I've been writing on for 3 years now. I post once a week. For a while I was posting twice a week. So I have a lot of material there. So I kind of talked to my ex and I said, is there any way we could pull some of this together and kind of like sew it up and make it into something whole? And he's like, yeah, we could do that. So some of it is blog posts, some of it is original content, and then worksheets in between, actually, for people to kind of complete and really, really think about, what I was, what I said and how they can apply it to their own lives. But it really is about, there's no title yet, because why would there be a title? But it's really about being yourself unapologetically. And
Oh, I love that. That's
yeah.
wonderful. So, for those who are unfamiliar with the beta reader process, how
Mhm.
did you find them? Who are they? Are they people you know? How many do you have? And what are they going to just write up something about your book and send it to you? Or how does that work?
So they are all people I know. I did, small tangent. I did coaching school to become like a life career coach. And I was going to do it for like polyamorous individuals. I did this last year. And so I bought some time with a coach that I already knew to kind of get me through the process. And I had a year of sessions with her. And toward the end, I was like, you know what? I don't need coaching right now. Can we postpone it? So I had like a 4-hour chunk of sessions that I didn't use. I'm like, can you use these to read my book? And she was like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. So I had her, I actually just sent it to my dietitian last night because I knew she was also familiar with like books in the self-help space. Um, a yoga teacher that I know, because I make friends with everyone. um, One of the yoga teachers at my local studio said she would read it. And then a couple of, my mom's a math teacher, and so she has a lot of English teacher friends. So they'll also read it. I have a set of, I think, 9 questions for them to kind of think about and let me know, and then whatever else they think of.
So then, wow, that's really cool that you sent them 9 questions. So they'll answer them and get the feedback. Then do you have to rewrite your book?
We'll see. We'll see what they say. I mean, if the questions come back that it's like, wow, this didn't make any sense whatsoever, maybe we'll find out.
Oh, okay. And so then you don't have a publication date because it's just sort of wide open right now. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. And then a title. It's really interesting that you don't have a title at this phase of your book. So
agree.
unapologetically me or something like that, I would definitely check Amazon to see if anybody's used that, but something to that effect would be so cool. Like the real Renata and how to find your true self or something like that. You know what I mean? I love helping people find titles. So
Oh, okay. Then
yeah.
maybe we'll have to chat about this in total later, or maybe I'll have to send it to you and make you read it and tell me what.
How many pages is it? Or how many words?
So it's without the worksheets, it's like 20,000 words. It's not too long. It's not too long. We can
That's
talk about
awesome. Okay, let's talk about your writing process. Right now you've got a lot of free time and you're able to do more writing. So do you write in the morning, the evening? Do you have a routine or rituals?
So unfortunately, I hope this segment of the interview does not prove to be very disappointing. I really don't. I don't have one. If I am particularly excited about something, I will type. Usually, if I'm really excited, it'll take me like 20 minutes to pull a draft out of nowhere. But otherwise, I mean, and I've been in a depressive episode recently, so it's really laborsome. Like I write blog posts. I publish them Wednesday evening. So usually I like to have them prepared over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, and then I send them off to my ex to edit, and then he'll get them back to me by Wednesday evening. Nowadays, like you said, I have a lot of free time, so I'm doing them like Tuesday or Wednesday morning because I'm like, I need to get content out. I really want to. I don't want to stop because then I feel like I won't pick it back up, and I'm very concerned about that. I do love writing, but right now with this depressive episode, it's just been such a challenge. But even when I'm not, I don't really have a process. One of the things that I have done though, especially when I'm really strapped for ideas for blog posts, is I've kind of reframed my thinking where whenever I have an opinion on something where I'm like, oh, this, I feel particularly strongly about this flavor of ice cream, which there are things that I could rant about forever, like ice cream. Like curly fries are one of them. I'm like, curly fries are the best. Let me talk to you for 2 hours about how they're the best. And I kind of reframe my thinking to when I have a thought like that, the next thought kind of jump in me, like in the flow chart of my thoughts, the next thought immediately jumps to, can I make a blog post out of that? And then usually I'll write down a note for myself. And then sometimes it'll be a whole post on that one thing. Sometimes it'll be a culmination of different things. But that's, I mean, a lot of it does happen in that, for me, in that thought phase. Like that's where the bulk of it happens. And then it's just me kind of hammering it out until I have something that's all right. And part of the thing is also for me, being on brand for me is not having a theme. Like my blog doesn't have a theme. It's called Buffalo Sauce Everywhere, and it is not about cooking.
It's really fun. I love it. I visited it. It's really neat. Buffalo sauce, everything. Everywhere.com. Really fun stuff. And your topics are so all over.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why, part of the thing is no process, because I'm like, I like to write about anything and everything. And I just want to be passionate about something.
Mm-hmm. So you're very passionate about talking about your eating disorder and recovering from that. I've heard you on podcasts talking about it and you write about it. So can you share how that also inspires you as a writer? And do you find that writing is therapeutic regarding an eating disorder?
So it is definitely another one of those things where I'm like, I just want people to read it and either, feel less alone, or maybe honestly, there's a chance that a lot of people are just kind of living in this like disordered eating diet culture bubble and they don't realize how harmful it is. And maybe my writing makes them go, oh, wow, I don't have to feel that way. I don't have to hate myself for eating a cupcake. Like I've never heard someone say that to me before. Like maybe they're entrenched in this like echo chamber of diet culture. But yeah, I mean, I love writing about the deep stuff and I love bringing that to light. And a lot of times things like that, either, depression, eating disorder, whatever, I'll find just all these different ways that they impact my life and put them out there and be like, I did not realize that this, that this affected all these different things. And I wouldn't call it necessarily therapeutic, but I hope that it helps people. And also my dietitian is awesome. And so I love either writing with her, writing about her, to be like, talk to her, because she talks about intuitive eating, which I think is, for a lot of people, is strange, but it's also very healing. And I love that.
So what to you is intuitive eating?
So intuitive eating it's essentially not feeling shame or guilt and listening to what your body wants when it wants it. But that means, I feel like that means so many things. Like, so when I started on my intuitive eating journey, I ate pretty much only starches. I'm pretty sure I ate French fries at least for one meal every single day of the week. And that bothered my entire being. Like my body did not feel well after that. But in all honesty, I wasn't eating intuitively then either, because I wasn't doing what was right for my body at the same time, right? It was making another part of me feel worse, even if it was making one part of me feel better. So it's finding that balance and not feeling shame or guilt and not associating good or bad with foods. They're not good or bad. Some foods are healthy and not healthy, but you find a balance of those and you don't feel guilty for eating, a cupcake or a cookie or something.
I love it. I love it. So what's your overall big goal as a writer, Renata?
It literally is to touch people and make them feel not alone. That is 100% what it is. I don't think I would ever want to write full time because I just can't do the same thing every day. I think it would bother me. Also, I need some external motivation. If someone was just like write for 3 months, I would be like, no, I can't. Like, I can't just sit down and type for 8 hours a day for 3 months. I wouldn't be able to I can't even fathom that. So I don't know. I mean, when did I decide to do the book? In February? Before I decided to do the book, I would have told you I never even plan on writing a book. I can't even believe that I did that. Yeah. It was not on the to-do list. Writing is just something I do for fun, you know what I mean? So I didn't expect it to become a big thing.
I love it. I love it. That's so exciting. So what's one tip you'd like to leave our viewers who are writers with?
So, I mean, write your passion is really the answer. I can't stress enough how much people can see your passion come through your writing. And I think sometimes we discredit that, where I know that sometimes when my editor will read a post that I write, he'll be like, you just kind of rambled about this. You didn't want to write this. And I'm like, you can tell, right? And he's like, yes. And I can tell when you're very excited about something. He's like, it's very, very apparent. So even if you're writing a book that you've kind of lost, you've kind of lost your feeling in, or a blog post you kind of lost your feeling in, go off and write about something you like and then come back to it. Like, it gets those feelings and that creativity flowing. And I feel like that's what works best.
I love that. I love that. You are so inspiring. I really, really, really enjoy learning from you. Your story taught me so much. Was I really the last person to know that I'm bisexual? The topic, I mean, the title is just so provocative and intriguing, and the fact that it's a true story and you're so open and honest and courageous about it is just super inspiring. So, Renata, thank you for that. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you must keep me posted about your book. It's not a
Book. Yep.
novel, your book. So we can all learn how to get it when it comes out. Do you know how you're going to publish?
So I've been looking through, I'll probably go Kindle as well as Ingram Spark. So it can go into like some indie places. I'm hoping the local place will take it. I really would love to be there. I love their stuff. So I just want to make sure that I'm, hitting as many people as I can.
I love it. It's never too early to start promoting. Of course, you do need a title for your book, but we're going to talk. And then get a cover together so you can start promoting it with your cover on your social media and sending it to everybody you know, print it out, get postcards, take them into the stores, because you really want to lay the groundwork and build that buzz months in advance of the release so that when it comes out, you have buyers waiting for your book.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Well, and that's why I know, I mean, while I like want to push to get it out as fast as possible, I know there's just so much that needs to be done, and it needs to be done in a certain order. It needs to be done the best way possible. And
yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I know you're going to be a great success because you're so inspiring and you're a very talented writer with really provocative insights that can teach us all how to be better and bolder. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody read it and feel like you can be yourself. Walk outside and scream to the world what you are. Yes. Do it,
Woohoo! And please go to twosisterswriting.com and read her story under winning stories. You can just do a search for Renata Leo, but actually she appears right now at the top of the stories. So it's real easy for you to dive into her wonderful, wonderful perspective. And we will all be cheering you on to publish your book and make it a blockbuster that changes lives everywhere. So Renata, thank you for joining me here on Writer Talks.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
It's my honor and pleasure. And thank you, all of you, for watching us tonight on Writer Talks, where you got to meet the amazing winning writer, Renata Leo. And I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins. Please give us a thumbs up for the video. Please subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, ask a question. That's my refrigerator. It makes weird noises. Sorry. That's an emphasis to please go read the story. You can also order our international anthologies there as well on our website, twosisterswriting.com. And so until we see you again next Monday at 7 Eastern, when you get to meet another winning writer at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing, please remember, happy writing, and we'll see you next week. Take care.